In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where there is actually a pretty big amount of severe weather upcoming over the next 3 to 4 days that we're going to be discussing across especially the south central states through the deep south and up into the southeast. This area is going to be kind of the hot spot, as we predicted probably a week or so ago. With this cooler pattern coming in, that deep south area would be the new region to watch. And sure enough, we saw that flip in the overall location of those severe weather events really switch up and head pretty far south. This cool down, speaking of that, does look to come to an end by June 4th. We've been talking about that for a few days now, and we're getting more and more confident in that, and we're also getting more and more confident in that change being at least semi permanent, for the at least near term. So that will be at least pretty long lived and probably glide us right into the heart of summer, which is pretty interesting. So we're going to be discussing those two major notes for the most part. There is storms and severe weather potentially happening in other places, so be sure to stick around even if you don't live in those deep south areas. Let's go ahead and dive into things. Looking at the temperature anomalies, of course, like I said, we are cool right now. We do expect to stay that way until about June 4th. This frame is actually a really good one. This is just overnight tonight, and we do see some warmer anomalies there in the west. We call this a positive PNA. This forces the cold air from the Arctic region of Canada down into the central and eastern states. We saw this a lot over the winter, this past winter. That's why it was so cold. And we didn't see much of this during the most of the spring, but now we're seeing it move in for the past few days, and it's going to last a few days more. But we do look to see this pattern break up over time. So let's keep going. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here. By Friday the 30th, we're still really looking the same way. Saturday on the 31st, very similar. Sunday the 1st, so we have one more nastier, not as warm weekend coming up. I think this is going to be the last one, though. Monday the 2nd is when things are really transitioning. Look out west. This is always going to be the key to what's happening around the nation, I find. We see that it's colder in the west, so we call that a negative PNA, and pretty instantaneously we see these warm temperatures spreading kind of northeasterly, and that is moving overall to take over the eastern states. Usually what's happening out west, we will see the opposite for the eastern half, and we see that transition happening on Monday the 2nd. Eastern seaboard is still cool, but the warmth, as we can see, is on the way. And by June 3rd, we've started to warm up in the east. And then, when we look at the 5th, 6th, 7th, and beyond, it looks relatively warm. We do get a little bit of cooler temperatures there, especially for like Monday the 9th, but it is very close to normal. I would say this is an average day, early June day in the east. We do see some warmer anomalies in the west, so you might be thinking that's a positive PNA, but it's not just western United States that matter. It's western North America as a whole, and we can see up there in western Canada, regions of the Rockies, we are below normal. So overall, this probably evens out to a pretty neutral PNA. We get some cooler anomalies up there, warm anomalies down here, but it's relatively equal, to say the least. And we see that actually some cooler anomalies are working their way in and actually cooling that warm area anyway. This is by Wednesday the 11th, and we see overall warmer times for South Central, Southeast, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast here. Pretty much just all around warmer. Looking at the total, or not the total precipitation, looking at the storminess, we do see there is quite a bit of rainfall around for a lot of the plains and Midwest, deep south, into the Mid-Atlantic. There is some thunderstorm chances, especially as you work your way into this area here. We have severe weather chances for multiple days in a row, probably three to 4 days in a row for this area. So today is day one of that. We will look at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, of course, at the end of this video, as we always do. Let's take it towards tomorrow. We do see continuation of just thunderstorms kind of present throughout the south central states, southeast, and maybe the Mid-Atlantic. There's probably a general thunderstorm risk up there, so it's possible. But it is cooler, and it might end up just being more showery overall. And then as we work our way towards what will be day 3 on Thursday the 29th, we see a little bit more widespread thunderstorm activity in these areas, especially, again, the south central, deep south, southeast. So we've been watching closely for all these things. Looking at Friday on the 30th, we get a low developing right here. we see the heart of it, it's very, very broad in here. The low location is going to matter a lot. We see it here. That would likely mean that we're watching south of that low for the severe weather threat on Friday. So it'd probably mostly be this area here. If that low is a little bit further north up here, well, we draw that line there and then we cut it to the south. So that low, the no matter where it is, south to north, that is going to definitely dictate where we're cutting off most of the potential for severe weather on a north to south level. So we're going to be really tracking closely. We have 81 hours. That is some time for the low to move around, but likely it'll be very close to what this is showing. And we'll be watching mostly the Carolinas, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida for potential severe weather. Moving towards Saturday, that low moves up towards the northeast and becomes a strong nor'easter. It drops pretty rapidly down to a 985 millibar low pressure center there over New England. So perhaps as we reach next weekend, Saturday the 31st, we're looking at strong winds and heavy rainfall there for New England. As we keep going towards Saturday the 1st, that moves up into Canada, and we're left with a pretty dry pattern here in the entire United States, and we see that there is a pretty massive trough in the east, ridge in the west if we follow these lines. So this is probably about the peak of this colder pattern in the east. Monday the 2nd, we see a storm system building here for Colorado. This is kind of the medium range, so we haven't seen this obviously on the Storm Prediction Center outlooks yet, but we could be looking for this as of next week. As we move this towards Tuesday, we get this low. It's a little weaker now, but we see it over Minnesota and Wisconsin, and we see thunderstorms firing up for the plains and Midwest. This could be a system to watch for our next more widespread severe weather event, especially if that low trends a little stronger. We'll definitely be watching that. We do have a low over Utah as well, bringing some mountainous snowfall and lower elevation rainfall. Two very impactful systems at once happening here. Then we see this by Wednesday, pretty interesting. This low races out into eastern Canada, as weaker lows tend to do. We see this one over Colorado, so we mostly are taking on a warm front characteristic there, and we'll be watching this area for thunderstorm and maybe severe weather activity Wednesday the 4th of June. Looking towards Thursday on the 5th, it's clear that we get more severe weather activity from this. The lows there, thunderstorms are firing up for the plains and Midwest. Potential for severe weather would be really high with this one. And even by Friday and overnight there, we could see lots and lots of thunderstorms stretching with a very large cold front. This would be impactful to say the least. This is what happens when we see big warm-ups. It allows for these big cold fronts to come through and be very impactful, because when that cold, dry air interacts with very hot and humid air, that leads to very, very impactful thunderstorm events oftentimes. Now, as we just keep going towards, I guess I should delete this off the screen, Sunday the 8th, we do see thunderstorm activity is continuing to spread southward and eastward. So we're seeing a lot of the eastern states, a lot of the deeper south states seeing thunderstorms by June 8th, Sunday. Monday the 9th, same thing. It's kind of reaching the eastern seaboard, so we are seeing more and more activity. We do have a stronger low here over south central Canada, 996 there. More thunderstorms firing up for that north central area. So you can tell the general theme here is activity really, really increases once we see that warm air start to make a return. We get numerous strong lows moving through, numerous cold fronts. It really just turns into a very interesting pattern. Looking at the total precipitation, we do see basically from the Rockies eastward for a lot of the central states, a lot of the eastern states, and everywhere in between here, we do have really high amounts of precipitation. I don't think anybody in that blob that we've drawn is going to be dealing with a, really dry conditions at all over the next 2 weeks. There might be some, pockets of dryness, a few days or like a week at a time. But overall, the total amount of precipitation over the next 2 weeks is not lackluster by any means for much of anywhere in there. And when we look at the anomalies, the most below average is going to be maybe this Midwest into Ohio Valley area, maybe the Dakotas, and then maybe Florida. But even then, we're only looking at under an inch below average. So it's, very, very small amounts in some of these areas. Whereas the above average areas are, especially in the blues, we're talking 1, 2, 3 inches above average. So this is a very saturated area in the upcoming pattern. Now, taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, this is for today on Tuesday, the 27th. We see 3 lighter green areas, and that's where we expect general thunderstorms. But even though no severe weather is expected, anything is possible, so I always tell people to heed every watch, warning, and advisory. The 2 darker green areas there across the deep south and southeast, as well as Texas into a lot of the kind of 4 corner states there. That is our marginal risk, level 1 marginal risk, where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. And then we have the 2 yellow areas, and that's going to be your level 2 slight risk, level 2 out of 5, by the way, but it's still a decent shot. We see a lot of bad severe weather during these marginal and slight risks sometimes. And that's going to be where we expect some scattered about severe weather reports to come in. It's important to note that when we see days like this, damaging severe weather happens almost every single time when we see a slight risk. It's just the overall, I'm trying to think of the correct wording for it, but the overall coverage of those major severe weather reports coming in gets a lot thinner throughout the area, but it does happen in there almost every single time, like I mentioned. So somebody's going to get it is a good way to look at it most times. So that's a good way to help you, understand how serious these situations are still. So even though these areas have a lesser chance, it is going to impact some folks in here without a doubt. Day 2, which will be Wednesday the 28th, again, general thunderstorm risk, very large, marginal risk in a similar area, and then slight risks there across the south central states. Day 3 for Thursday the 29th, we have a general thunderstorm risk and a marginal risk. This is exactly how Wednesday looked when it was day 3 yesterday, but we got it upgraded to a slight risk, and it wouldn't surprise me if this Thursday the 29th follows suit and also gets an upgrade in there somewhere. So be on the lookout for that as well. But as of now, we have a large general thunderstorm risk and a large marginal risk. Very similar across days 1, 2, and 3. Not a lot of huge differences with the areas impacted, so pretty stagnant. In the extended range, we have this one right here, Friday the 30th. Again, watching North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. This roughly translates to a slight risk, so you can imagine there will be an even larger area outside of it seeing a marginal risk, and an even larger area outside of that seeing a general thunderstorm risk. So we'll have to wait and see. If that low trends northward, we could see the slight risk trend northward. If it trends southward, we could see the slight risk follow suit as well. So some changes since it is day 4 can be anticipated. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.